know this song, right, Mark?
I hear it.
Now in the street there is violence and a lot of work to be done. No place to hang out or washing, and then I can't blame all on the sun. Oh no, we're gonna rock down to Electric Avenue, and then we'll take it higher. Oh, we're gonna rock down to Electric Avenue, and then we'll take it higher.
Oh no, we're gonna rock on the
Oh.
Portable Electric Avenue today here on episode 12 of the Real Leaders Podcast. We're here with CEO and co-founder of Portable Electric, Mark Rabin, and me, Kevin Edwards, your host. And Mark, how are we doing this afternoon?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Absolutely. So I don't even know Mark. I've never met Mark in my life. We know he's a good guy, at least we think so. But overall, he's doing good things. So Mark, I kind of really want to tell our viewers, what is Portable Electric doing? Who are you and how did you start it?
Well, thanks. Well, Portable Electric is an energy technology and manufacturing company based in Vancouver, BC. And we build gas and diesel generator alternatives. Basically, we started off with we started surveying the landscape and realized that you couldn't rent an industrial grade renewable power system. So if you look on every street corner, on every film set, on every site, see
Generators.
it's a gas or a diesel genset.
Right.
Generators everywhere. Generators on, on food trucks even, right? Every street corner, you'll start noticing it, and your listeners, they'll start noticing it as well. They'll start looking around, and they'll be like,
Mark, I'm from Portland, Oregon.
What
We
is-
got plenty of food carts everywhere.
yeah.
Those generators.
So every bite of that hot dog,
Yep.
every bite of that hot dog has a carbon footprint. So we started looking at that, and we said, okay, look, there's an opportunity here. Everybody knows where the trends are going. We're moving towards electrification. We're moving towards smart energy systems, energy efficient systems. So in May 2016, we hit the market with our first working prototypes, and the first day we opened our doors, someone gave us money to rent the equipment. And so we were like, oh, that's interesting. We built these prototypes, and all of a sudden someone's waiting there to rent the equipment. So we started a green power rental business. So not only do we look at the market and say, okay, we need to build these things because they don't exist, we also realized that we had to get them out of the market. We had to create that upwelling of interest in market creation. And so we started one of the very first fully green power rental businesses and started to get our products into the market. And so our first year, we generated a small amount of revenues from renting our prototypes, but we were doing R&D and kind of like a living lab concept where we used a bit of a lean product development methodology, got them out, got feedback, iterated. And then from that, we built another set of prototypes based on the feedback that we got. And again, the first day we commissioned those new units, someone was waiting at the door to pick them up and rent them. So then it was like, okay, this is interesting.
Right.
And so we started, and we grew our revenues that year. And again, we weren't selling equipment. We were just renting while we were developing our products. And then this year in 2018, we started selling equipment. So we refined our products. And then this year, we started selling, and we haven't looked back. So it's been a really exciting time for us as well. And then we know that there's major changes going on around the globe. There's obviously some issues in terms of climate change and efficiency and energy systems and just transitioning. And so we're really part of that wave, and we view ourselves as disruptors. We are disrupting an industry, but we also see ourselves as being able to play within the industry, and not so much as disrupt, but nudge and shift behaviors, sustainable behaviors and social behaviors around portable power.
Well, there's so many people that are buying something that will impact the environment or society in a purposeful way. So conscious spending. And I got to ask you, who are your customers? You mentioned filmmakers earlier. You mentioned the food carts. Are they buying this product just because it's clean energy, or are they buying it because it's so useful and it's more efficient than the gas powered generators?
So all the above. We started off in film and entertainment as our first market, because they had a real demand for clean, silent power. That sort of, they had a pain point there that we identified, and a willingness to pay for those benefits. So that's where we started off with film and entertainment. But you start to look around, as I mentioned earlier, on every street corner, on every festival site, event site, construction site, you start to see that there are gas and diesel generators. So we started to look around, and we look at, it's kind of everyone who's using portable temporary power is a prospective customer. So a lot of the industries, though, when you start to look at how they're using traditional gas generators, a lot of groups rent the equipment. So very few groups actually own fleets of generators. And so if you trace that back to who owns the equipment, it's typically equipment rental companies, event services groups, film production groups, okay. Construction rental, right? Like United Rentals, for example. So that's sort of, if you trace it back, we've got two tiers of customers, and one is we are a B2B company, so we build industrial grade products for the equipment rental industry, and then they use those products in their business to rent them out to the end user, who's again, someone who's organizing a wedding, or someone who's got a construction site, who's building a home. So those are our first customers, but we're starting to see growth and electrification in all major industry segments around the globe.
Now, Mark, why energy? What brought you to something like this? Is this, clean energy something that you were always passionate about, always thinking about, as a youngster, or how do you kind of mold your passions to align with this industry?
Oh man, I'm a huge energy nerd. So that's kind of my first thing. I live and breathe it. This is all I think about. But if you want to go back to how I came to this position, I always, there's a great sort of quote in rock and roll. It's like, best new album of the year, 10 albums later. Right, so it's that kind of thing where there's always a journey and a story behind how you became the sort of fresh new face. And for me, I started off. I did a geology degree in my undergrad in university, and that was sort of my first exposure to the planet, how the planet processes, Earth processes, and how everything integrates together. And I actually, my first career was as a geologist in the oil business.
Really?
And and absolutely, and which is essentially the energy industry. This is how we power the world around us, how we move ourselves around, how we move our food systems, and so I started looking at the energy industry from the lens of the oil industry, and I started to look at how energy is produced, how it's refined, how we use it, what's going on around the globe, because we do still move up to 100 million barrels of oil a day. I mean, this is not an insignificant industry. But I also started to look at how inefficient it is, and sort of archaic it was. And today, if an engineer today started to design an internal combustion engine, it'd be a design fail. It would be an engineering fail. I mean, the fact that 80% of the resource is lost in some fashion, whether to heat or other distribution. So
Yeah, you got
so
to
I
think
started
at
looking at
some
that.
point. You got to think at some point that we're going to run out. And this obviously might be thousands of years from now, but we're going to run out eventually. So, we have to make the switch from these
Yeah.
fossil fuels to this clean energy, is what you're saying. And
Yeah.
that's a great point. That would be failure, wouldn't it be? So you said 80% of that energy is lost.
Is lost to inefficiencies in the system.
Interesting.
And so I started to look at that. And at the time, I was reading all these books, and this is the early 2000s. I was reading all these books on the end of oil and the hydrogen economy, and where technology was going. And so I decided to go back to school, and I did a master's degree in energy economics, finance, and policy in the UK. And that's when I really started to look at electricity and power systems. And also you start to look at, if you study energy economics, you also have to understand that there's a billion people on the planet that don't have access to basic electricity. And then you go up one more, there's 2 to 3 billion people that have access to intermittent electricity, and then there's another 2 to 3 billion that have access to abundant wasteful electricity. And that's basically so really deep into the world of energy, and deeper. And that's when I started to look at storage and battery systems, and all that good stuff. And the economy tanked in 2008. Can you hear me, by the way?
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay, it just said poor network on my. And in 2008, the economy tanked, and that's when all that renewable energy and investment money just disappeared overnight.
And why did that happen?
So I went back. Well, because when the price of oil is high, because remember, oil was at about $150 a barrel. What it did is it spurred on a lot of investment in high cost alternatives to oil. And so it was an exciting time. People were like investing in all types of renewables. It just made sense economically. But as soon as when the collapse or the recession happened in 2008, and the price of oil hit rock bottom, all that investment into the higher cost alternatives just evaporated. It just became uneconomic. But the times today are different. These are different times, and renewables are now cost competitive to the traditional sources. So I went back to the oil business. Finally, I realized that I could no longer be a part of an industry that was essentially in a sunset.
Got it.
And it was undergoing changes. And I made the leap in 2013 into renewables, and haven't looked back. And so my first business was doing small little portable energy systems in Africa. And that set the foundation for what we're doing today. And that's where Portable Electric sort of spawned out of.
Yeah. And Mark, well, what kind of issues are you running into now? I mean, obviously, this is a big task you're taking on. This is a very hard industry to compete against, the oil industry. What issues are you running into, and how do you go about fixing those problems?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's nothing easy about entrepreneurship, and then as well, and when you start to develop technology and hardware, so the challenges are always the same in many respects. But I think the number one challenge is finding a way to excite the investment community that this idea is the big idea. So that's something that we've always struggled. Especially we're based in Canada, as I mentioned earlier. We're based in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada.
Beautiful place.
Yeah, beautiful place. Really great country to incubate ideas, start ideas. But access to capital is definitely significantly lower than, let's say, in the United States or in Europe or maybe in Asia.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that a lot of Canadian companies have to contend with. Scarce resources in terms of financing. So I would say that's the one of the most biggest challenges. So then that means that the entrepreneur is left with their own financing, so self-funding, friends and family who really believe in you, and then obviously partners and employees and early employees who believe in the idea and stick by you through thick and thin.
What's the biggest challenge that you've run into in this startup?
I would say, the biggest challenge that just comes to mind is really, as I just sort of started alluding to, is sticking through it in the really tough times when the finances have dried up and you don't know where your next cash is going to come from, or your next sale is going to come from. We created a business that was seasonal at the beginning. So summertime, events business, very busy, lots of hustle. And then as the winter months came along, all of a sudden no one was doing any rentals, and people were just offline basically from what their traditional business would be that would ramp up in, say, May. So we found ourselves a couple of times in fairly tough financial position where you've got to go to work every day and you've got to keep advancing the business. You've got to keep everybody at bay in terms of employees and creditors and so on. So it's definitely keeping, one of the biggest challenges in business is just managing cash flow and keeping positive throughout those downturns, knowing that the hard work will pay off if you get through those down times. The other one is in terms of challenge, in terms of the technology, right? The actual getting out there, is that when you're integrating a new technology and you're ahead of the curve, it really is finding the right initial markets, understanding your customers, and getting that education out there. The first reaction that we had when we first started, people were like, people were resistant to change. They were like, well, I've been using this gas generator for the last 30 years, and this is not going to work. Right? I don't really understand the technology. It's different. I'm not interested. And so every time that we go into a situation like that, we have to build that rapport, build the trust, and get somebody to try it out. And then once they try it out, they know that they can trust it. It's a very quick switch. So integrating new technology at an early stage takes a lot more than just saying, hey, here's a new product, try it. Right? There has to be an integration bit. There has to be a bit of a high-touch hand-holding process involved in it. And this will be with any technology in any industry.
Well, Mark, to kind of sum that up, we talked about portable electric, what it does, how it's empowering people, who the customers are, filmmakers, vendors, events, and how you started in the oil industry and recognized that and made that switch. But now I want to talk about what you're doing right now with disaster relief in the Carolinas and in the southeastern United States. Now, this is interesting stuff, folks. If you're just tuning in now, I read that Portable Electric is bringing their generators down to people who have lost electricity and are trying to build their houses up, or trying to, run their companies, run their businesses, whatever. They are using clean energy made possible by Mark Rabin and Portable Electric. Mark, what is going on down there in the Southeast?
Well, so we've actually got a team down there with around 10 volt stack power stations with full solar. We're also down there with our partner Stanley Black and Decker as well. So we help them develop their portable power hub as well. So this is a joint effort. But we over the last couple of years, every time hurricane season happened, we would get calls. People would call us and they'd be like, "Oh, can you send us this? You know, I've got family in Puerto Rico and we need units." And you know, it was always a bit heartbreaking for us because we just didn't have the equipment in stock, and we weren't able to get equipment down there fast enough. So we had to just not be able to service that demand. And we said last year, we said, let's not let that happen again. We know that our equipment with full solar is perfect for the relief effort, is perfect for the first responders, as well as the follow-up effort once everybody's gone and people still are left needing power for their home and for their tools and for the fans to do the drying for the flooded areas. So this year we made a real effort, and we mobilized a fleet of volt stack power stations, all 2K in size, so it's our smaller, more portable unit with full solar. And we've been down there for the last few weeks, and it's been an incredible experience for our team. And we've actually had to we did a swap out. So 2 members are coming back and 2 members have gone in to continue that relief effort. And, you know, we always say that, you know, if we'd had units down in Puerto Rico, they would still be there being used today.
Right. Well, they were without like electricity for a while, weren't they?
Like,
right?
Some communities that don't have electricity.
That's
and it's heartbreaking, you know, because Kevin, we have the technology.
Yeah.
We have the technology, you know, like to solve these problems.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. And the other point I want to talk about is these gas powered generators. You know, how about the family, at least the article that I read, how about the family that has the generator in there and those fumes of carbon dioxide are going in there and they get carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah.
So something as little as that people just aren't aware about. This is the first time they've experienced a hurricane. Oh, let's throw in the gas generator. Let's put it inside. You're not waking up the next morning, you know? So
it is
big issue.
Absolutely devastating. It is absolutely devastating. And something that, you know, it comes down to education. We always say that, but you know, it's hard to tell somebody that's out of power, is scared, might want a heater, or depending on what it is, and all of a sudden they bring this in. They may not have an extension cord either, right? So maybe they have the gas generator, they might not have an extension cord, so they think it's a good idea to run it in the house. And
right,
you know, it's unfortunate, but yeah, this is one of those you know, times where the new technology can solve a lot of these challenges.
Now,
yeah.
So sorry to cut you off, but the last time I used generator was prom night, and we came back. We came back from our, you know, prom dance, party bus, whatever it was. And we got back to our friend's house, and all of our parents were working on getting generators in there to keep the party going. Right.
What? In the house?
The electricity had gone off in the whole town that night. Small town in Oregon, and electricity went out. So parents are in there trying to get the generators going, and a couple of the generators didn't work. So you got to think about, if I'm outside in the middle of nowhere shooting a film, if I am in an area that might not have an outlet or anything like that, and the gas will eventually run out. You know, if I'm trying to have that prom night party and I have a limited amount of gas stations close at 10 p.m. in Westland, Oregon, it'd be nice to have that wind-powered and solar-powered portable electric unit got going on there. But I got to ask you.
That's a funny story, by the way.
No, thanks. Appreciate it. I'm a funny guy. So we're going with giving generators to people in the Southeast. Now, this idea, was this similar to what your work was in Africa when you started up? You mentioned that earlier. Is this kind of a similar idea of bringing electricity to the unelectric, I guess, if you will, people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to off-grid communities. Yeah.
Off-grid communities.
The foundational premise is the same in the fact that you have off-grid communities that don't have access to basic electricity, and so they require a solution that can be at the same time portable, but also provide needs for lighting, communications, sound, like radios and so on. So, and a lot of the, electrifying an event site or a job site is very similar to a small village, right? You have your main hub or your base camp or your main stage, and then you have a bunch of ancillary services around the perimeter, which could be smaller homes or first aid or start finish line, or it's et cetera. So we started to look at a lot of the concepts of how do you move power, or how are humans looking to interact with the power system. And so a lot of the theories that I developed at that time, I quickly transitioned to what we're doing with portable electric. The technology is different, completely different. Our stuff here is based on lithium ion cells, batteries chemistry.
Got it.
And power electronics on top. So these units here are much more powerful and much more capacity. However, we're already seeing we're doing a project in Guatemala in the new year, and our early prototypes which are still perfectly fine, they'll be going down there to help bring power to this community. They just don't look as sharp and as refined as our new products, but the technology is robust and sound. And we always say that we're building units that'll be around in 10 to 15 years. And there are secondary and tertiary market applications for the technology. Some groups want the newest, greatest, with the best Wi-Fi technology and whatever you name it in it, but some other tertiary and secondary and tertiary applications don't need that. They just want clean, reliable power. It doesn't have to be aesthetically the newest thing or the newest technology.
Now,
we're definitely seeing a lot of opportunities in that realm.
Definitely. Well, that's good to hear. And what about your advice to somebody? Somebody that sees you as a role model and say, hey, this guy had a passion and he found a problem in the oil industry and he wanted to do something about it, but aren't quite sure about taking that next step. Can I risk my lifestyle? Can I risk my compensation to take that step into something that I'm passionate about, whether it be helping out people or the environment? Can I do that? What advice would you give to that person?
As cheesy as it is, start somewhere. Literally just start it. Yeah. I hear a lot, even my close friends that have known me forever, but even young people I speak with, everybody's like, well, I don't know if I can do it. Like you were just saying, right? My lifestyle, my job, and do this. I'm like, start it on the side. Start a side hustle. Get together with some friends, but do it. Everybody goes, man, you should do this or you should do that. I'm like, no, I shouldn't do it. You should do it, right? And it's like, I think the hardest part of any of this stuff is people think that there's a perfect time. I'm waiting till I'm done school, right? I'm waiting till I'm 4 years into my job. I'm waiting till I have paid off my car. It's like there is no perfect time,
right?
To start to start a business or to start exploring your idea.
It's never the right
You
time.
mentioned Keith Ipple and Spring. Big inspiration to a lot of entrepreneurs, and Spring is based on that exact sort of premise: is come in, take our the induction sort of like courses, and just flush out your idea. If you don't have an idea, take it anyway. Because innovation and ideation and entrepreneurship, they're all muscles that you have to train and practice. And so if you don't start somewhere, you're going to be that sad person who says, "Oh, I had that idea." "Oh yeah, I had that." You know how many times I hear that?
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, I had that idea like 10 years ago."
Right.
Great. You didn't do it. So
Exactly.
I think
Gotta start
so my
somewhere.
advice is, it's like talk is cheap. It's like great, talk. But when you look at the successful entrepreneurs and just successful people in our lives, they're executors. They're going for it. They get it done, and then they get more stuff done than half the people around. So my advice always is think smaller in a way, like think big, but parse out the idea and then tackle one little bit first and start doing it.
Yeah.
Start selling one little part of it, or start developing the idea, because the second you start saying, probably you did the same thing with your podcast and your magazine. It's like the second you start saying, "Hey, I'm doing this idea. Are you interested?" People are like, "Cool, this guy's doing it," and all of a sudden you're the guy who's doing that.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's crazy. It's crazy from where we started, 2.5 years ago, making videos for your people out at Spring in Vancouver. And then now it's like, oh, let's start a podcast. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll just hop on a call with somebody and we'll see where that takes me. And the best part about it is it's horrible right now. It's where I want to be is the best part. And knowing that I'm going to be able to look at this podcast with Mark Rabin.
You broke up there.
Oh, I'm just saying, just knowing I'm going to be able to look at this podcast with Mark Rabin on October 12th, 2018, and just laugh. That is what gets me going every single day. That's why I love these podcasts, and I always get better after every single one. So you got to start somewhere, to go off your point. But Mark, before we go,
and just one.
Oh yeah, go.
Sorry, I just want to add one point to that, because just to follow up what you just said there, it's that my current business and everything I learned was a result of me taking the chance on the first business.
Yes.
So people can be critical of entrepreneurs that have struggled and then their business didn't really amount to much. Or you hear this sometimes as well. You hear like an angel investor being like, "Well, I invested in that guy and then the company didn't go anywhere." But I always remind them and say, you know what? That guy is going to go on to start his next business, right? Based on everything that they learned from the previous business. And so that investment was not lost. So there has to be some give and take on that front.
Right. Hey, well, wise words from Mark Rabin. And Mark, before we go, are there any last words you have for this podcast, and anything that you want to mention to our audience who are listening to this to maybe check out Portable Electric?
Well, last words is that we're in a really exciting time, and just when you think we've discovered everything and all the innovations done, just remember that we're just at the very, very beginning of solving some of the major challenges that are facing humanity. So start your business, start your idea, develop it, start talking to people, and you'll see it'll start happening right before your eyes.
Well, thank you.
And
Go for it.
and I'll give you like a little background, Portable Electric, where you can find us. We're based in Vancouver, BC. We've got units throughout Canada and down in California. Currently, right now, we're at www.portable-electric.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as well under Mark Rabin, Rabin. And we're also scaling the business throughout North America and Europe. So always looking for like-minded individuals to help with the hustle.
Definitely. And to add to Mark's point, this podcast will be on www.real-leaders.com as well. You can find it there. You can find links to Portable Electric there. And folks, don't forget, you go on the real-leaders.com right now. We have a great deal. You can go in and get your free Branson edition plus 40% off. Mark, I promise you, man, there's some good articles in there that you're going to like.
Amen.
So go on in there, check it out. All you need is your email, and you're going to get that free Branson edition plus 40% off your next order. Limited time only. Great deal, folks. Go online, check it out. And folks, thanks for tuning in today. Most viewers of all podcasts, I think it's Portable Electric. It's definitely not me. And that wraps it up for episode 12 with the CEO and founder of Portable Electric, Mark Rabin. I'm your host, Kevin Edwards. Thanks for tuning in, folks. And always keep it real.